Travel commercials look effortless, but nothing about them is easy. You have a camera, one lens, and a tripod. No lights or crew to rely on. You have to count on your foundations, composition, and how to use natural light properly. But with so many techniques and rules that you have to follow, where do you even start? In this video, I'm going to be answering that question by breaking down a spec commercial I shot for ITA Airlines. I'm going to be covering the foundations and my exact process when it comes to composition and working with natural light. But before we get into that, let's talk a little about shooting with minimal gear and how to approach any situation with the mindset of a cinematographer. The number one mistake I see cinematographers make when they are capturing something that is supposed to feel natural is rushing for coverage and not taking your time to get the proper shots. And the reason I know this is because I have done this before and made this mistake countless of times. Being intentional as a cinematographer is key, and I feel like this mindset change really shifted my career. For this travel commercial, the director, my partner Sophia, wanted to capture the natural experiences of going back to her country where she grew up, and I leaned into that exactly. What those experiences meant to her and how to tell them with just a single video frame. This means letting the landscape and interaction between people and textures tell the story and not any fancy camera move. I feel like my most important tool in my kit is my tripod and mastering the static shot. Let's break down a few shots from this commercial to show you exactly how you can do that. So this commercial was a really fun one to shoot because it was just me and my partner really experiencing Rome, Italy, Tuscany, all these different places of Italy, and really coming up with creative frames to tell this specific story. This project and whole experience was really special to me, as obviously I got to work with my partner, but just being thrown this entire curveball of creating such a high quality commercial with such minimal gear. So let's talk about the gear first and just pause one of these frames. And what I brought to this trip was a Sony FX3, a Sigma 24-70, and this is my go-to lens, and I bought this when I first started in like my videography and video professional career. And this shoots at an aperture of f2.8. Obviously we're not going to be using t-stops because it's a photo lens. And I feel like this is one of like the most sharpest lenses that I own when it comes to like photo glass. I love Sigma and I always stand by them in terms of when it comes to really workhorses, and I really love their lenses. In addition, I also brought a Nikon 20mm, and this is just out of my personal kit, and I brought an adapter as well. And then you can see why I brought that 20mm to get something a little bit more than 24 when it came to these wider shots, which is one of these car rigs here. And speaking of the car rigs, I brought two suction cups, a little friction arm, and a spigot, as well as a grip head. So this is like a combo. So I'll just say a gobo. And this is a fantastic way to easily get good car shots that are just supposed to be just static in there. Obviously you do get a little vibration, and the reason that I have two suction cups is one, just to get two mounting points so it's not vibrating all over the place. And I also brought just a simple tripod. This is one of the travel ones where you don't really have pan and tilt functionality to get smooth shots, so it's just static shots. And I don't remember the brand of it. It's just one of those carbon fiber travel ones that's not peak design. So yeah, that's all I use. But now let's dive into this commercial and see what exactly we can talk about when it comes to composition and natural framing. We're gonna start with this 3-shot of Sophia making pasta with her mom, where we have the wide of the action of what's happening here to give it more context, and then we go into a hand tight to see the actual action, to see that we're actually making pasta, and then the feeling of it, the experience of a mother and daughter creating a meal together. And this is a very Italian thing to do. So let's go back to our main scene to set exactly what we're looking at. And to give you the major thing for composition, we are looking at the rule of thirds, and they are in the bottom third here. This is where I want the viewer to look, right here. And to even add more layer and texture into this, I'm going to isolate them with my background, foreground, and midground. So when I originally had this framed up, and this was shooting just again on the 24-70, and then I'm at the lowest over here at 24, I was like, ooh, something's a little bit missing. And then I took like 6 steps back and put this tree in my foreground. So this is giving me something texture in the front. And then I have my midground, where I'm going to be focusing on, and then my beautiful background that goes into the hills in the back here, the trees that we have here, as well as the beautiful sky. And this is shooting in the middle of the day. You can see where the sun is directly right above here because we have little harsh shadows down here. But when we look at our subjects, we don't really have that harsh shadow going on, and this is very flattering. This looks fantastic. So this is kind of my first arsenal when it goes to creating something that is considered cinematic. Building depth with my foreground, midground, and background to give something very interesting. And luckily, another thing here to give you even more depth into this background is also my shooting angle. So luckily, we're on almost like the top of a hill where this house is, and you can see that here. And then what I'm doing is I'm positioning my camera up on a tripod and then also shooting down over this bush line so we can see past what's going on here. So this gives me even more depth in my background and so much to look at, but my eye is automatically drawn here. Now, if we go into the second shot here, I already established this with my wide, and I don't need to do a handheld push-in. This is the visual language that we decided on. I don't really need to do any sort of camera movement here because I'm kind of painting the picture with what we just talked about. But when I'm going into the action and I want the viewer to feel something, this is where I switch to a handheld movement, when I focus on the hands and then I focus on the face. So we took about probably 30 minutes to set this up with the tablecloth, the wine, everything that you see there, even what they're wearing. There's so many things that go into this because we wanted to make it feel authentic. And this honestly took me to 5 minutes to shoot. This is 3 shots, and 2 of the shots were actually broken up into 1 shot because I just focused on the hands and then I went to the face, and that was about it. And then I just got some natural interactions between them talking and smiling. And that's really all you need when it comes to films and projects like this. The next thing that we're going to be talking about is framing something within a frame within a frame. And this is a beautiful way to build depth and add focus into what exactly you're looking at. So here is an easy way to do it. Just shoot through a window. And then this is again on the 24-70, and this automatically tells me what I should be looking at and the action that is going on here. So you'll notice that I did something even more complicated. Of the window is in the third, and then we are focusing on the bottom third of the window here. So this is something that just my eye naturally goes to in terms of focusing on, and this is what I like to do in a lot of my work. A lot of these frames I build within the third, and they're usually in the bottom left or bottom right. I generally like to move my narratives forward by moving to the right, so that's why I have a lot of my action there, and that's just what I like to do. And then the sunlight is just about here, so this was like around 4 o'clock, and the sun is coming in here naturally and giving me these harsh shadows. The only thing that you can really add here is maybe some ambient fill back up into the room if you're trying to paint a picture of what is on the wall. But this was inside of a bathroom shooting out into the pool area of the house, so there wasn't a lot going here, so I could darken this. But if it was a beautiful room with paintings or a lamp or something inside, I would turn it on to add to that canvas that we're shooting, to add to light and dark parts of their image. And this is exactly what we're doing with our natural light. We have dark here, we have dark here, and then we have dark over here, and then we have this salt and pepper going on with this frame with light and dark, and then we go into all the light out there. And that is what we call contrast, and it makes an interesting image, and it's deemed cinematic. And that's exactly what we do, build contrast to make something look even a little bit more interesting. And another frame within a frame is exactly what's going on here. This is not an exact obvious one, but these branches in my foreground allow me to build a beautiful frame here. And we just talked about contrast, and this is a beautiful checkerboard of light, dark, light, and then even more dark over here, and tells me exactly what I should be looking at. So I want to feel like that we are inside of a tree and there's not a lot of natural lines, and that's why you have these branches going across. And then we propped up these leaves as well as the lemon, and she kind of fake picks it. The BTS will play here, but it's kind of hilarious how we had to prop this up. And then I'm just holding the camera against a branch and nothing really else. So this was just coming up with a really good idea, and then we just did this in our backyard. And to give you even more context, when we were shooting this, all these little scenes and vignettes in her home, we just walked around the property for an hour and shot all these things, and it was very simple. The main thing is that we just did a lot of outfit changes, so it felt like different times and different periods of this piece. And here's another example of waiting for your shot and being intentional. This is when we were in Vatican City, and it is busy and packed all the time, and you're never going to get an opportunity where you can get something like this unless you wait. street, and this was waves between people. That's how they let people into the Vatican City, so it's not as crowded all the time. And there's this beautiful stairway with the sun peeking through the windows and giving me these beautiful rays of sun on the floor. Luckily, the colors really worked on this and popped these out even more to give it more of a glow, but it was already enough there to work with. And I'm like, this is a scene that's already playing out. I just need Sophia to stand up there real quick and then look out into the sun. And this is something that we just kind of looked at each other and like, oh, we need to do this ASAP. And that's exactly what she did. And then I just stood by here with a 24-70, and this is at my 24mm length. I'm going to dirty it up with something on the side here to add some, something into the foreground. And then again, look where I'm placing her on that third. Not necessarily on the bottom or top, but in the middle, because I have so much interest in everything going on. And then because this is still a busy area, then you see those people in the background. It doesn't really feel like that because our interest is right here. So this, again, just using my toolkit and thinking on the spot, I probably only had maybe 15 seconds to think, and then I just sent Sophia on to walking up the steps. And I'm like, hey, look back at me right now. And this is the connection that we have, not just as partners, but as a cinematographer and director duo, because there's a lot of times where she trusts me and I trust her in terms of what we're supposed to be getting. And if I can recommend anything, that is how you're going to get good work as a cinematographer, even director, if you're looking to do that. Now we're going to talk about all these things that we just kind of talked about, a frame within a frame, using composition, and then now adding light, because we actually brought in some lights. And Sophia brought this, I think it was a small rig, and it was almost like a flashlight that had little gobos that you could put on it, but it was only 10 watts. So you can't really get a lot of power on it. But what we use is this gobo that looked like a tree. So this is something that you can put it on the front of the lens and it just gives texture. This is what I'm generally using with spotlights mounts. And then I put it on the edge of the table over here on the side and then painted this little orange light. I just set it to 2700 Kelvin and set it to 100% just to give some texture and detail of what's going on here. If you look out into the distance, there is no sun, but I wanted to add some color contrast back into this because I didn't want it to feel all blue. When you're going for specific looks, you have to go look at your color wheel. And in this case, the opposite of blue is going to be orange. And those are complementary colors. And that's how you bring interest back into this. But we are framing ourselves within a frame. So that is automatically telling the viewer where to look. We're sitting, guess what, at the bottom third of our image here. And then we have a lot of layers to work with when we're looking at the foreground over here, which is this couch and everything that is going on in this living room. The midground where we're focused, which is us two enjoying a meal. And the background where it goes into infinity because we are looking out into the sea. It would be fantastic if the sun was setting right here, but it was actually setting on the other side. We were east facing and the sun was setting on the west, obviously, but it was giving us a gradient into the sky, and the clouds that you see in the next shot reflect that orange. So I wanted to bring that orange back to look like the sun was coming from somewhere else. Does it make sense? No, because there should be sun on my face. There should be something going on here. There should be so much more output. But just at a glance, if I take off all these lines, we can see that this is interesting and it feels like sunset. Again, we're going for that naturalistic look, but if I use my commercial mindset, I'm like, oh, I just have to paint some orange on the wall so it looks like sun is setting. And that was good enough for us. But when we go into the next shot, you can see how the sun is setting behind us, because you can see how all these buildings are highlighted, as well as this cloud is reflecting all that sun that is coming behind us and coming back into this way. But now that the sun is here, that light doesn't exist. I tried it and I tried to put it over here, but it just didn't look good. It looked way too fake. So I just lead into being natural, us into a silhouette, so we can focus on the beautiful landscape. And this is just a decision that we made on the fly, and we're just capturing the moment and really enjoying our time with not a lot of pressure. But if I just, again, in this previous situation, I just took 30 seconds and Sophia was like, why don't we just add a little light here? I'm like, that is a fantastic idea. And that's exactly what we did. Now, the last shot that I want to talk about is something very important that I really tried to be intentional with everything that I was doing, and even my camera settings. So when I'm shooting on a Sigma 24-70 and I see an aperture of 2.8, in this case, I'm just going to talk about T-stops instead of F. I know it's a photo lens, whatever. Everybody is going to try to shoot at T.8. I get it. That is cinematic. It is deemed what people like. But if I shot that at 2.8, why is Sophia in focus here as well as the background. I actually shot this at an f-stop of 14, and I really wanted to experiment with this because I wanted to showcase what exactly the experience and feeling is. Again, I had to really align with my director of what she wanted to create, and in this case she is enjoying the breathtaking view of the rolling hills in Tuscany. So I wanted to showcase her face in focus, see that she's absorbing the sun, she's enjoying the moment, as well as what she's enjoying. Obviously the sun is not in frame, but the beautiful landscape that we have here. And how do you show that off at the same time? You could easily do a rack focus, but the breathing on this lens would be horrendous because it is a photo lens. So I'm like, why don't I just stop down here and really experiment with this and make sure that I'm actually capturing an authentic story and not really taking over as a cinematographer or somebody who's obsessed with tech and I need to shoot at the lowest t-stop. A lot of times when I'm shooting my commercials, I'm shooting at a 4 or a 5.6 because I have a beautiful landscape or canvas that is already painted with production design, light, and talent, everything that I'm using. And in this case, I have that, a beautiful subject that I'm working with, as well as a beautiful background. So I'm going to showcase it all. And then if we go back to a previous example at the beginning, where it's a tight of her face and then we have that background blown out, I was really focused on Sophia here with the natural, beautiful lighting that we see from the sunset, as well as the out of focus rocks here. I didn't really want to see everything in focus, but here was more of a moment where I wanted to see everything in focus. So this was just me experimenting on something that was a spec project, which was very not high stakes. So I am allowed to experiment here, but I shot a safety with the 2.8, and in the edit, we figured out that we liked seeing the whole landscape regardless. So going over this commercial, my intention was to teach you guys that you have to take a minute, be intentional, align with your director, and go back to the basics. Use the rule of thirds, build depth with contrast as well as your foreground, midground, and background, and find the best angle. If you can get one shot that speaks to you and exactly what you're doing and take it 5 extra minutes rather than rushing to get coverage that really doesn't work in the edit and then you're just crowded with so much footage, don't do that. Just take the time, get the shots that you need, and you'll be way more satisfied with your work and you'll start to see yourself grow. If you guys are interested in more content like this, let us know in the comments below. We love interacting with you guys to get potential future video ideas. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.